So let's take this room that we made in the last video and let's populate it with some prefabs. The objects that I'm about to use were simply downloaded from the asset store. And we'll just put these right into the scene. Before we position it, add component, physics, box collider, zoom in, and we just need to rearrange because for whatever reason, the default positioning for this box collider is really quite wrong. And because it's an adventure game, point and click adventure, I'm not too worried about being really stingy with the collider boxes. As long as they have to click in the approximate vicinity, that's good enough. Okay, so now we just need to move this up, move that up, and that's good enough. It has to be a trigger or else it won't be clickable. And this is going to rotate on the y-axis because we're going to put it up against this wall. As far as how do you know it's on the floor, you can look at the shadows. You can also check the y coordinate of the floor. The floor is a plane, and it's at -3, so that means this really should be at -3 also. Okay. I might just jump ahead. The process is the same. I'm just going to drag and drop the assets into the scene. Okay, so I jumped ahead, and as you can see, I've just dragged and dropped the 2 additional items. I did the same thing that I did with the chest of drawers. I simply scaled it and rotated it. So now what we need to do is we want to be able to click on that object. So let's go ahead and add the script and attach it to the chest of drawers. So create C#, and we'll call this search cam because you're changing the location and the rotation of the camera based on what you're searching. You're going into like a search mode rather than just a rotate mode. So let's click on chest of drawers, drag and drop it there, open it up, and what we're going to do is we're going to add void on mouse down and what we're going to do is this checks to see if you have clicked on the object the script is attached to. The script is attached to the chest of drawers. So we're going to have something happen when you click on it. What we're going to do is we're going to take a position that is just in front of the chest of drawers. So it should be at like maybe at 19. And we don't want it to be at -3. The camera's at 0, so maybe even bump up to like 1 or 2. And the X position doesn't need to change. So in other words, we're taking a position as if someone were standing right in front of the chest of drawers. So first we need to create that static variable. And it has to be static, that way it's accessible throughout the entire application because the camera needs to get access to it. So public static vector3, and we'll call it zoom LOC, zoom location. And then on mouse down, zoom location is going to be set to new vector3. And like we said, we want it to be standing in front of that chest of drawers. So camera's normally at 0. Let's try, actually X is 0, but Y, let's bump it up to 2. So it's like as if you're standing above the chest of drawers looking down. And we'll put it at, say, 19 to see how that looks. That might be a little bit too close. Let's try 18. So, quick recap. We've created a new variable. When you click on the chest of drawers, that variable gets set to this, and now we're going to tell the camera to move to that position. So here we go. In the update section, we're going to add get component transform dot position is going to be set equal to that variable. Since it's defined in search cam, we have to state the name of the script and then the name of the variable, so zoom location. But the problem with this is it's constantly trying to go to a zoom location. So we need to put a condition here. We're going to put it if. So we add a new variable in search cam, public, static, string, because we're just doing like a yes or no. And the string is going to be zoom in, and it starts as no. Back down to on mouse down. So when you click on the object the script is attached to, this variable gets set to that value, those 3 coordinates, and now this other variable is going to be set to yes. So now we can check for that. So if search cam dot zoom in is equal to double equal sign, I always forget that, and it's set to yes when that gets clicked on, and okay, so now it will only zoom in. I think that's everything. We attached the script. We gave it the new coordinates. Only happens when you click on it. All right, let's give it a run. Beautiful. So a little bit close. So we'll just tweak this a little bit. Let's make that say 16, and let's make that 3. Because it looked like you were like nose to nose with it. So we click on it. That's good. Now, here's the problem. That's only half of what we need to do. We also need to choose a rotation. Because don't forget, you can rotate and click on that. So you might be looking around the room. You're like, oh, what's that? And you click on it. It kept that old rotation. Now, I suppose if you really wanted to, you could keep this. But if you want to make this more tightly programmed, you'd really adjust the rotation as well. So let's look at how to do that. And it's really just building on the idea, the concept that we just coded in. And that is we want to have a vector3 variable that tracks the rotation. So in the search cam, public, static, vector3, and we'll call it zoom rotate. So same thing, when you click on the chest of drawers, just as you set the location, you're going to want to set the rotation. So zoom rotate equals new vector3, and now you just have to look where the camera is facing. So by default, the camera is actually looking at that. So that makes life really easy for us. So it's rotation 0, 0, 0. So 0, 0, 0. But say you want to tilt the camera down, that you're like standing above it so you can see more of the front of it. Then what you would do with that, so let's rotate the camera down a little bit and see what happens. So if we rotate it down, it is the X rotation that's changing. Okay. So that's the first one. So let's make this, it's 10 degrees down. And we'll tweak this a little bit more. We'll be standing higher up, so we'll make that 4. And maybe make this a 15. And again, this is purely subjective. Whatever you want to, what you feel the proper positioning is for the game that you're working on. And again, what we're doing now is really just an elaboration of what we did a couple minutes ago, and that is we created a variable, and then when we click on the object, that variable gets set to 3 vectors that are relative to the object we just clicked on. Now we just need to do the same thing. We need to, when in the rotate cam, when search cam zoom in is set to yes, so transform dot Euler angles. So rotation, when we rotate something, we're setting it relatively. So in other words, if you're doing transform dot rotate and you have an X, Y, and Z, that's how many degrees you're rotating. Whereas with Euler angles, you're actually rotating it to a specific location. So transform.Euler angles equals new vector 3. So if this said rotate instead of Euler angles, this would rotate at 15 degrees from wherever it currently is. Whereas this says no, put it at a 15-degree angle. So one is an absolute, one is relative to its current position. So first we'll click on it like normal. And as you can see, now we are looking down. You can see that the sides aren't straight. They're pinched in because now you've got that perspective of looking down along the front. But this is the true test. We're going to rotate. Now we click on it and see it fix the rotation. So now we've got the rotation. We've got putting it in the right position, putting it in the right rotation. Now, there's a couple more things we need to do. We need to be able to exit out of that search mode. So we're going to have to add a button, perhaps using the built-in GUI or manually making one. We'll take a look at that probably in the next video.